Bonjour, mon amis. Il est Argent. Today, we're going to talk briefly, not a long time, but briefly, about racism as far as this country is concerned. Now, one thing I'm mainly getting tired of is the double standards behind racism. There's all kinds of things I could talk about with racism, but the double standards is really what annoys me. And you hear this sort of thing all the time about what is okay for certain people to say as opposed to others. Like, okay, if you're not black, then you can't say nigger. Or, as they call the N-word, which I really don't like the whole tiptoe around the issue type of approach when it comes to this sort of thing. But I'm kind of getting tired of it. Because, what about every other racial slur that other people say? At the end of the day, words only have as much weight to them as you allow them to have over you. I think that there are many other different words that can be used in a derogatory sense other than racial slurs. And for a long period of time, I used to be offended whenever somebody would use that sort of thing. Very stereotypical for most black people like myself to get offended when somebody that isn't black uses that word. But I ask myself, exactly why am I getting offended? And I critically ask myself this question. I didn't ask other people. And, I know the history behind the word. I know that it was used as a put down for generations for the whole idea of, white people being better than other people. The whole full-blood Aryan thing. I know all about that. But when you put history aside, does it personally affect me? And the answer I had was no, so I stopped getting offended by it. I make the joke all the time about me being white per se, because that's what people typically expect of my behavior. It's usually not what they expect of black people, at least in where I live and the type of people that I deal with. It's not my fault that they're short-sighted, but bear with me here. When I asked myself this question, and I proposed the idea to other people, they were a little foreign to the idea of that. Oh, well, you're black. You're supposed to be offended. Really? Am I really supposed to be offended by something that I truly do not understand? It's the same with anything you believe. Stevie Wonder said it best. If you believe in things that you don't understand, you will suffer. A blind man wrote that, people. Okay, so further instilling logic into this whole picture. I think that in order for the mankind to transcend its problems, because it really is a shame to see that out of all the progress we made over the years, all the technological advancements and discoveries and medicine and whatnot, the simplest of fucking problems, which, as simple as it is a bit more complicated than that, but at the end of the day, it is still a simple problem. The simplest of problems still have not been taken care of. They encompass our life more than we want them to, and personally more than I feel that we should allow them to. I don't think that it's a good thing to let what you don't understand encompass your entire life, even though when you look at like the news and the media and whatnot, it does it in its own way, whether we like it or not. It's the same with every other choice we make. We shouldn't let what other people do be the foundation of our decision-making skills. People will do this because it's convenient, it's comfortable. They don't have to feel uncomfortable by stepping out of line and say, hey, I disagree with this decision, or I disagree with feeling this way. I was even talking with someone else about this yesterday or recently or earlier this week, that the problems that people go through usually are a lot simpler than they actually are when we look at those same problems through a different perspective. In other words, if you have no emotional connection, Say I'm your friend and you're going through a problem, and I look at your situation and I'm like, okay, well, that's bad, but you can bounce back. While on the same spectrum, if I was in that same issues, if I was having that exact same problem and you were comforting me, it would be harder for me to get over it than you would, because you don't have an emotional investment. And I personally think that in this instance, for racial slurs and racism, people need to stop having emotional investments in it for it to no longer be a problem. And the only reason why it is a problem is because no one says anything and everybody lets it go as it is. This can't go on, and it's really a shame. It shows what decline our culture is in, if we are still revolving our lives around this ridiculous notion that if you are not a certain color, then you're not allowed to say certain things. It's bullshit. A certain color, a certain race, certain creed. Because at the end of the day, you fall in the category whether you like it or not. You're going to have to accept that. But at the same time, you shouldn't have to be proud about it. You shouldn't have to have pride about it in order to swallow up the insecurities that have been foisted upon you or you gain over time through other outlets in forms of hatred and in general disgust. How much longer are we as people going to let these things keep us down? We shouldn't be beating each other up about what person said about another. We should be helping each other out. And I think that we need to set racism aside. It's going to take a while because it's a phenomenon that transcends further than just America. But America is the main one. This country is definitely incredibly racist. And the whole notion of anybody being better than another is absurd. We're all equal. We're all shit. We're not going to be better than each other by pointing fingers at each other, because at the end of the day, the first person that we should point fingers at is ourselves and not the next person. Au revoir. Merci, mes amis.